I want to read this text. The group of us, you, me, Lucas, Grandy, we had a text thread before the show. And this got thrown out there by Lucas. And I want to know if you agree with this. And does everybody listening agree?
I was on BART, and I got off the train, and there were 22 messages in our thread.
It was active.
It was super active, and I was like, oh, my God. My first thought was like something with the baby and the nanny and the wife, and I looked, and all 22 were from you, Grandy, and Lucas.
We are the All 22.
Yeah.
You ever look at the All 22?
That's us.
The All 22 is very, very informative. Okay, so here's what we were talking about. Hey, there's some Niner stuff and some Warrior stuff and some Draymond and some Steve Kerr. 888-957-9570. Let's release the hounds and welcome in the audience. Fire away on this. So we end up talking about Andrew Wiggins and Lucas with this 1-2 punch. I feel, he says, would anybody out there be bothered if the Warriors trade Wiggins? That's the question. And then he does what any good radio person does. He answers his own question, which is we ask a question, then we don't even wait for anybody to respond. We're like, right. I'll tell you the answer. So would anybody out there be bothered if the Warriors trade Wiggins?
Christy.
Good answer, by the way.
Your girl, your lady.
Yeah, lovely Christy is sitting here going, is this what we're doing today? Yes, hon, this is what we're doing today. Because you might be the only one left who loves Wiggy. Here's Lucas's answer. I feel like everybody's accepted that the Warriors-Wiggins experience has run its course. Wow. That's some finality right there. The Warriors-Wiggins experience, has it run its course? You and I had a conversation that wasn't just yesterday. It's been thread throughout the last week or two because we know the trade deadline's coming. And we got a lot of chirping reporters out there that are all telling us something's going to go down with the Warriors. There's going to be a deal. And we've sort of categorized it as this. The Warriors probably want to trade Wiggins. The league would like them to trade Kuminga. He's cheaper. He's younger. He's much more arrow up. That's a young asset I think teams would like to have. Wiggins is probably the contract the Warriors would like to move because it doesn't seem to fit anymore. And it's longer term. That makes him harder to deal, for sure. But can we stop and breathe and backtrack for a second? Because while I understand the sentiment completely, and there's no argument for the way he's played this year, I'm not there yet because I haven't reasoned with all of this yet. In February, he disappears. We'll never know why. Family something, okay? Then he comes back. He plays in the playoffs. It's fine. Some good moments, some bad moments.
He played pretty well.
He played pretty well, and he ends up hurt.
Compared to how he's playing now, he played awesome.
Completely. And he fought through injury to try as they were eliminated against the Lakers. And then whatever goes on in the offseason, we arrive back here, and all of a sudden he cannot play with Jonathan Kuminga anymore. And he ends up as a bench player who, as you pointed out, when we bring up that magic number of Andrew Wiggins and 18 points, which I think is pretty close to his career average, he has only surpassed that 4 times all year long. Part of that recently has been opportunity. He doesn't play enough minutes to score 20 points anymore. But that's on him largely because he's not playing well. And people will go, well, this is actually who Andrew's always been. And my argument is, no, he's always been inconsistent. He's always disappointed people when compared with his number 1 overall pick status. He never looked like this. So that's it? We're just going to shrug our shoulders and this dude that we loved for 3 years who had a huge imprint on a championship, we're just going to shrug our shoulders after 12 months of scratching our head and go, that's it. I don't want him anymore, and you can give him up for a song. Is that where we are?
Well, where else are we?
I don't know.
Are we in a point where we think that he's going to become the player that he was? And you're right, Mark. This Andrew Wiggins that we've seen this year is markedly worse than he's ever been. He's never averaged below 16.9 a game, and that was his rookie year. And if you look at every other year, he was between 17.1 and 23.6. And as a Warrior, and I mentioned this earlier in the week, 19, 19, 17, 17 points a game. He has been rock solid, consistent. He shoots the ball 14 times a game. He makes about 6 of them, maybe 7, maybe 5. He shoots the occasional 3. He knocks down 1 or 2 a game. He gets about 3 rebounds a game, somewhere in there, 3 or 4. He gets 2 or 3 assists. He plays good defense. He plays 32 minutes a night. That is Andrew Wiggins as a Warrior. This year, everything is down. Minutes, shots, makes, points, rebounds, assists. Everything is down. So why? And if you don't know internally why, and I know externally we don't know why, how could we know why? He doesn't talk a lot, and we don't see a lot in terms of, things that have gone on or off-court, histrionics or incidents. We don't know anything about Andrew Wiggins. All we know as fans is he's gone from a starter and a regular contributor who at times disappears to a guy who's on the bench and plays way less than he used to.
Yeah, I can't argue with anything that anyone's going to say with regard to this. As I already said, there's no argument for him this year. But is it weird that I still want to know why? Like, this doesn't...
It's not weird, but I don't want to know why.
But it seems like it... And again, I'm not talking about his family situation. I don't want to pry. But something even larger than that, if you ask me, has gone on. Because we've watched players go through family situations before. I'm not under the impression that this just crumbled his entire world. And so now he's just going to average 6 points a game? It's
been 11 months since he left the first time.
Exactly. What is going on with Andrew Wiggins, and are we willing to just be like, okay, that's it? And I know some of you are already asking a very fair question is, what's the other option? I'll borrow from Guru. I don't know. But I'm having a really hard time just going, yeah, that's the Warriors' move in the next month. Dump Wiggins for shoelaces. Good Lord. Andrew Wiggins, less than 2 years ago. This is a superstar in the NBA Finals and an all-star. Less than 2 years ago.
Right.
And we're willing, and again...
Life comes at you fast.
Yeah, it does. It does. But I also know that you move on from people like that for nothing in their 20s, you can end up regretting it too.
Yeah, you could. You sure could. And no one's saying you get nothing back. And I don't think that you're going to trade him for nothing. I think that's short-sighted to think that they're going to trade him and get, quote, nothing back. If the trade market is that you get nothing back, then you don't trade him. You don't have to trade Andrew Wiggins. And if you trade Andrew Wiggins, it doesn't mean you're going to get a player who's going to take you from an 11 seed to the 2 seed, and now you're going to be a championship team. If you trade Andrew Wiggins, it's going to be because you get the right deal. Whatever that feels like, if it's, a pick, a young player, a veteran, a combination of the 3, whatever it is, I don't think you just trade him because you have to trade him. But in terms of what you need to do, if you can't play he and Kuminga together, and you think that Kuminga is better now and Kuminga is better in the future, then Wiggins is the guy you trade.
Some breaking news that we want to just throw out there before we continue our discussion. Nick Saban is retiring from college football. That just
college
came
football.
down. Yeah,
well, not from coaching.
Well, no,
because there are many NFL openings.
The story is Nick Saban is retiring.
Yeah,
it doesn't say from college
on the day
football.
That Pete Carroll lost his job,
right,
and maybe the day of Bill Belichick, or the day before, or maybe it doesn't happen at all. But you got some big names now who are going to be, quote, out of coaching.
You got some big jobs that are open.
A lot of big jobs.
Alabama and the Seahawks. And
Michigan might be open.
And the Patriots.
Might be open.
Yeah.
Titans is open.
Big deal. Yeah, that one caught me by surprise, too. I think Vrabel's a fantastic coach.
Right.
Yeah.
But if you're Vrabel, and you want to still coach, there's probably 5 of the jobs that I'd rather have right now. Chargers, Patriots.
Chargers because you have a quarterback.
Right. What does Tennessee have?
But Vrabel didn't. That wasn't on his own. They dumped him.
Sure.
I think that they're out of whack. I think that organization. But anyway, that's another conversation, another day. Back to Wiggins. Yeah, you say you don't have to trade him unless you get the right deal. I sort of feel like we're moving down the road of the Warriors do have to make a deal, don't they? They have to make some deal. And if you don't get the right deal for Wiggins, what's your other deal? And what is the right deal for Wiggins? Because I would argue that when you say, oh, you're not going to do it for nothing, well, the soundtrack of the fan base right now is that that's what he's worth. So if we're all going to line up and go, get rid of Wiggins, get rid of Wiggins, get rid of Wiggins, well, the Indiana Pacers aren't going to be like, we'd love to have Wiggins. No, they don't want to pay $25 million a year for another 3 years for someone who they believe is shot. If that's what all of you believe, that's what the rest of the league sees too. So what is it you could even get for Andrew Wiggins right now?
Probably more than you think, more than fans think, for sure, because fans react to what they see and fans react to their emotion. And yes, Andrew Wiggins is having a bad year. And you look at the numbers, and he's shooting 30% from three and 42% from the floor. He's bottom 11 in the league. His points per game are 7 points a game below his career average. And this is not a small sample. This is a guy who's been in the league now for 10 years. This is his 11th year in the league. So you've seen Andrew's body of work. He's been very consistent. So maybe it's just as simple as he needs a change of pace. He needs a change of scenery, because that might be what he's looking for. And you heard Steve Kerr talk on our very show yesterday about how he's really starting to play well. I'm impressed with the way Andrew's playing, and maybe he's just trying to keep that value high. But if you are another team and you look at acquiring Andrew Wiggins, you know that you're buying low. You're not buying high. So you get a player who is only 28. I think he'll be 29 later this year. Yeah, in February. So he'll be 29 in a month and a half. And he's a guy who can play NBA basketball. He's shown it over his career. He is legitimately, night in and night out, 17 points a night. That's what he's been for his career. Now, why is he not this year? What's the problem with Andrew Wiggins? That's the $23.8 million question. Is it because of the off-court problems that he had last year that had him step out and miss half a year?
Yeah.
Is it because he doesn't fit with these Golden State Warriors? Is it for another reason? That, to me, is the ultimate question here. It's not about whether or not you should trade Andrew Wiggins. Is Andrew Wiggins done as a Golden State Warrior for whatever reason?
I'm looking at it, man. I mean, a career 18.8 points per game scorer.
And legit, there's been no,
I mean,
his career mark has been rock solid consistent. One of the most consistent players in the NBA.
4 times he's averaged over 20 points a game. Never before has he averaged under 17, except for his rookie year, and it was 16.9.
Exactly.
And, field goal percentage for his career, it's not sparkling, but it's 44.8. A 35% three-point shooter. By the way, these numbers I'm throwing out at you, they all blow away what he's doing this year. He's not even averaging 12 points a game this year. And he's never averaged under 16.9. And again, that was his rookie year. 4 times north of 20. So again, this is what I kind of reject. I want to meet everybody halfway here. But because again, so my answer, Lucas's text, I feel like everyone accepts that the Warriors-Wiggins experience has run its course. No, I don't. And I'm probably wrong. I get that. I'm probably wrong. But from an emotional standpoint, I'm not there yet because I'm still overwhelmed with curiosity about what the hell has gone on here. What is going on? Off the court, on the court, analytics with Kuminga, family issues, or just K-Wig, the guy who cruises. Grandy's response in this thread that we were having is, he goes, this is the debate they were having in Minnesota the whole time. And the Warriors only have Jonathan Kuminga because the T-Wolves couldn't wait to get rid of him. And to a very high degree, that's accurate. But again, look at the player we were talking about when Minnesota was having that conversation. It was a player who went 20.7, 23.6, 17.7, 18.1, 22.8. That's who he was in Minnesota. So I reject whenever someone goes, well, this is who he's always been. No, it's not. This is so much worse.
It's not who he's always been, but it's the player that Minnesota grew tired of. And it's the player that the Golden State Warriors might be growing tired of. And Grandy also said in his text, and he's right, the Warriors got lightning in a bottle in 22 when Andrew Wiggins was an all-star and he was a big part of them winning a championship. That was the anomaly. That was not the regular Andrew Wiggins who filled up the stat sheet for a Minnesota team that was completely irrelevant and who has gone on here in Golden State to be a gigantic disappearing act. So, yeah, they got the best of Wiggins in a year where they won a championship. That's great. That's now 2 years ago. And here we are with Andrew Wiggins unable to start on a team that is desperate for wing defense and desperate for wing impact. And instead, he's losing his job to Jonathan Kuminga, who is at the very least, he's not a known commodity. He's a bit of a project.
Right, he's younger, he's more interesting, he's more unknown, he's more athletic.
He's not better. At least he shouldn't be.
Well, so there's another question that I have.
Should Kuminga be better than a 28-year-old Andrew Wiggins, an all-star?
No, he should not be better.
I mean, that's the thing.
But I'm not convinced that he is.
Well, he is better. According to Steve Kerr.
He's been better this year.
Right.
But we're talking about an incredibly small sample, and we're talking about varying levels of opportunity. Like, especially if we want to do this recently, where people are pointing to these awful games that Wiggins has had. Well, Kuminga's played twice as many minutes. And again, chicken and the egg. Is he getting those minutes because he's better? Or is he better because he's getting those minutes? I don't know. I really don't. But let's not act like Kuminga hasn't had some Wiggins games. If Wiggins had gone out against the Pistons and gotten 36 minutes and scored 11 points, what would we say? Oh, boy. He's just cruising around out there, just hanging out in the corner, doing whatever the hell you want. Where was your impact on the game in 36 minutes? But we don't do that to Kuminga. It's fine. He's 21 years old. I'm not saying we should come down his road. But let me ask this question, and maybe this is why I haven't reasoned with it yet. Okay, Wiggins and Kuminga don't play well together. Are you sure that's Andrew's fault? Are you sure?
It doesn't have to be anyone's fault.
Well,
I mean, if
a problem and you need to fix it and you need to pick one.
Well, and I think that if you're looking at it from an organizational standpoint and one guy is making 22 and change and he's on course to make 30 at the end of his contract and the other guy's making 6 and change and he'll make 7 next year and then you can decide on him, it's pretty easy. If you think that the two players right now are similar and they're the same, I think that it's easy to pick the younger guy and the cheaper guy when you're already paying $400 million.
Of course, if all things are equal, which they're not. In other words, because now, okay, you want to trade one of them, well, what you would get in return for Kuminga is much better. It's much better. I mean, all the responses, when I threw that deal out there yesterday, which is just spitballing, but the idea of what would Toronto say if you called them, and you said, and this is to make salaries match. That's why I threw in Gary Trent, who makes enough money and is also expiring. Gary Trent and Pascal Siakam to the Warriors in exchange for Andrew Wiggins, Chris Paul, Moses Moody, and a pick. That works. It works financially. That's a doable deal. What does Toronto say? Now, of course, it's Twitter, so all the Warrior fans are like, hell no. And the Raptor fans are like, hell no. Okay, fine. But I would argue the likelihood is if I'm Toronto, I go, tell you what, let's talk about Kuminga. Let's talk about Kuminga. So if you are a Siakam person, and I know not all of you are, but if you're a Siakam person and you think that that helps the Warriors this year, what if it's Siakam and Wiggins on your team, or just Kuminga and no Siakam? You don't get Siakam. You got to take something way, way less if Andrew Wiggins is the one you trade. Now, how are you feeling about it?
Depends what you get for Wiggins. And I think the Chris Paul part of this is significant because he makes $30 million. So you can use that as a way to get an expiring deal from a veteran, even if it's not Siakam from another team. You can certainly get a player who's going to be expiring, who might be good for 2 months and might give you a shot in the arm going into this year that's going to help you more than Andrew Wiggins is. Because right now, Andrew Wiggins is a 16 to 20 minute player and a guy who scored 3 points each of the last 2 games. And I don't have his whole career log in front of me, but I'd be stunned if he had ever had in his career back-to-back games where he scored 3 points or fewer.
Oh, gosh, I agree with you. I'm looking at his season totals. I'm not game log. That'd be almost impossible to find.
Right.
With how many points he scores. Again, this is a minimum 17 a night scorer.
He's like bankable. He's so bankable, 6 of 14 almost every night for his whole career. Or, 5 of 11 or 7 of 13. His game log, if you look at the entirety of his career, he's one of the most consistent players I've ever seen.
Yep.
And now he's a guy back-to-back going 1 for 5 and 1 for 6 in 8th man minutes. That doesn't work for a team that's desperate. This team is desperate for wing defense and a wing impact player.
An Iron Man who doesn't get hurt.
Ever.
Game totals. Year 1, 82.
I saw.
Year 2, 81. Year 3, 82. Year 4, 82. Year 5, 73. Oops, we strained a hammy for a second. Like, dude, steady Eddie, which can be both a positive or a negative. Largely for someone who's the number 1 overall pick in the draft, that has been usually throughout his career talked as a negative. It's like, yeah, dude, you're steady Eddie, and it's like steadily just good, not great. But that's gone now too.
Yeah.
And I hear too many people decide, and they're rewriting history, that the guy we're watching this year, well, okay, 2 years ago was the anomaly, and now we're back to who he's always been. No, we're not. He's never been this.
Right. Which is, to me, even more alarming.
So what
because
the hell is going on?
Well, it's one of 2 or 3 things.
Go ahead.
Either the off-court thing is either the thing that everybody theorized or something significant and long-lasting, or he just doesn't fit with this team anymore. And something's happened to where...
What happened?
I don't know.
It's not like Jonathan Kuminga's brand new. This is all the same people.
Right. But how do you go from being rock-solid consistent for 10 years to all of a sudden now being borderline unplayable?
I don't know.
Yeah.
And I guess this is probably part of my DNA. Like, I'm not there yet where I'm like, well, that's it. That's it. That's who he is now for the rest of his life. Really? At 28? What the hell is going on? And what do the Warriors do about it? So we'd love to hear from you. Again, the statement on our text thread. I feel like everyone's accepted that the Warriors-Wiggins experience has run its course. So you're all part of everyone. You agree? Has it run its course? Or are you not done yet? I still have some curiosity.